Good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. I thank everybody for being here. We shall begin, as always, with a reading of the published news. Aldermanic Notice, New Haven. The Finance Committee will hold a public hearing on Monday, January 9, 2026 at 6:00 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chambers, 165 Church Street, New Haven, to act upon the following. Item 1, LM 2026-0014. Order of the New Haven Board of Alders to authorize the Board of Education's tentative agreement with New Haven School Administrators Association Local 18 from July 1, 2026 to June 30, 2029 as presented. Item 2, LM 2026-0015. Order of the New Haven Board of Alders to authorize the Board of Education's tentative agreement with New Haven Federation of Teachers Local 933 from July 1, 2029 to June 30, 2020, July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2029 as presented. Item 3, LM 2025-0639. Order of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the renewal of a new 3-year agreement with Verizon Wireless for use of cellular services by the City of New Haven and Board of Education. Item 4, OR 2026-0004. Ordinance amendment of the New Haven Board of Alders to appropriating ordinance number 1, reclassifying the position of Library Technology Supervisor, position number 23001, within the public library budget from the special funds budget to the general fund budget, and reclassifying the supervising librarian position number 2010 from the general fund budget to the special fund budget. Item 5, LM 2025-0641. Order to read and file the updated budgetary and financial reports for the month of November 2025 in compliance with Article 8, Section 5 of the Charter. Item 6, LM 2026-0031. Order to read and file the updated budgetary and financial reports for the month of December 2025 in compliance with Article 8, Section 5 of the Charter. For committee action only, leave to withdraw. Item 7, LM 2025-0606. Order of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the Office of the Corporation Counsel to enter into a multi-year product and service agreement with ISO Claims Partners Incorporated to subscribe to MSP Navigator and related services, a system for reporting bodily injury claim data of Medicare, that's a typo, it should say Medicare eligible claimants to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, for the purpose of facilitating customer compliance with Section 111 of Medicare, Medicaid, and S-CHIP Extension Act of 2007, PL 110-173, quote, Section 111, end quote. These items may be inspected at the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street, 2nd floor, New Haven. Per order, the Honorable Adam Marchand, Chair, attests to Michael Smart, City Clerk. If you need a disability-related accommodation, please call 3 business days in advance at 203-946-7651 voice or 946-8582 TTY. Public comment/testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavencity.gov before 2:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Meeting can be viewed on Board of Alders YouTube page. Next, we'll have introductions of committee members, starting to my right.
Alder Jeanette Morrison, Ward 22.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Richard Furlow, Ward 27.
Brian Wingate, Alderman, Ward 29, Beaver Hills.
Adam Marchand, Chair, Alder of Ward 25.
Alder Sal Punzo, Ward 17.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Alder Evelyn Rodriguez, Ward 4.
Anna Festa, Ward 10.
Well, welcome everybody. This is a new term, and so this is the first meeting of the Finance Committee in this new term. I want to welcome back to this committee every colleague of mine who's continuing on this wonderful body, and I want to welcome colleagues who were not with us last term, Alders Wingate and Rodriguez among them. Also, Alder Moore, who's not here this evening, is a new member to this committee. We're glad to have everybody back with us. And of course, we welcome our new colleagues new to this committee who are here this evening and will be joining us going forward. So this was a long notice that I read with lots of words. It's all in capitals. It's difficult to understand. Let me tell you what's actually happening tonight. There's 2 contracts that the Board of Ed settled with unions representing their staff. Those are items 1 and 2 tonight. Item 3 is a request to have a contract with Verizon for cellular services for the city and the Board of Ed. Our Chief Technology Officer of the city will be coming up later to describe that. Then there's a position swap that the New Haven Free Public Library is requesting that we make from one position from special funds to general and one position from general funds to special. So that is the 4th item. Those are our like straightforward voting items tonight. Item 5 and 6 are the monthly reports for November and December. And that means we're going to talk about the more recent month, which is December. So that will come after we deal with those other 4 items. And the last item tonight is an item that has been surpassed by events. The maker of the item has requested that we give it leave to withdraw. So we will not be discussing item 7. It's for committee action only. It's moot. The request has been withdrawn, and so this committee will recommend leave to withdraw and send it to the full board for a vote in a few weeks' time. So that's what we're doing. 2 contracts, which will start us off, then the cell contract, then the library, and then our monthly. Good. Now, if you have a cell phone or a pager or some other electronic device that has really cool ringtones, shut it off. Or put it on mute, I'm sorry, because we don't want to hear it. And if you need to take a phone call or have a conversation with someone, please do, but do it out in the hallway so that our proceedings will not be disturbed. We appreciate your cooperation. These items are public hearing items. I will invite the public to come and speak on each one in turn, and we'll see if folks elect to do that. So that's how we will proceed tonight. Thank you all for being here. Let's begin with the 2 contracts that the Board of Ed is asking the Board of Alders to approve. And so I see 2 representatives of the Board of Ed here. I invite them to come forward. When a maker or someone requesting something comes to us at this table, we ask them to sit down. Please give us their names and addresses for the record. It could be a business address. And then we'll ask you to say what you have to say. Good evening.
Good evening.
Names and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Flegler. My address is 920 Quinnipiac Avenue, Unit 2, New Haven, Connecticut, 06513.
Good evening, Juanita Mazik Lewis, 39 Roosevelt Street, Hamden, Connecticut, 06514.
Thank you both for being here, and let's start with the contract with the school administrators.
So the school administrator's contract, there's a 3-year term, and the salary for the 3-year term, the first year, the general wage increase for year 1 is 3.39%, and that includes a step movement to those who are below max. Year 2, the general wage increase includes step movement to those who are below max at 3.15%. And year 3 is a general wage increase to step movement to those below max as well, and that's 3.06%. Year 1, the cost for the step increase for 3.39 is a cost to the district $612,611. For year 2, the 3.15%, that total cost for that year would be $588,570. In year 3, the cost for the 3.06% is $590,261. The total percentage for the 3 years is 9.59%. for the 3 year, for the term of the contract. And the total cost for the 3 year for their dollar amount is $1,791,422. And I will say about this, the administrator's contract, pretty much, it's pretty seamless, and the general wage increase is essentially the cost of living, pretty much. They increase over the year 1 to year 3. As far as what we negotiated was pretty much, we were just codifying, correcting language in the contract. We typically, negotiate that contract and come to an agreement relatively really soon. So as far as the district and the administrator, I think they were pleased with the outcome of this contract, because we did receive wage increases over the 3 years, and the health benefits pretty much stayed. The high deductible plan was based on the city's plans, because we don't have control over the health insurance. So they were pleased with that as well. So that is the outcome of the SAA contract for tenant agreement. Any questions?
Thank you for that concise presentation. Do you have anything you wish to add? No. Okay. So now we'll have one quick thing before I give to my committee members to ask questions. The 1.6 million figure.
1.7.
1.7, thank you. That's the incremental increase over the life of the contract.
Correct.
For the raise.
Yes.
Because that 1.7 would hire you about 5 administrators or something like that. So that's just the cost of all the raises over the life of the contract.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I gave it to you year by year as well, year
Yeah.
1 to year 3, for the
Thank you.
total cost over the 3 years.
1.7.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Questions from colleagues? The queue is open. Questions from colleagues?
I have no.
Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, you did mention this, I believe, that everyone was in agreement with.
Yes.
So they were, the employees were contacted of
Yes.
the union.
Mhm.
They felt comfortable voting for this contract.
They
And
did.
everyone is pleased to,
Yes.
okay.
And it was also voted at the January 12th board meeting by the board as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues about this ratified and approved collective bargaining agreement, which needs final approval from us? Further questions from colleagues about this agreement? Seeing none, let's move to the teacher's contract, and then we'll see if anyone from the public wishes to speak on either.
The president of the NHFT is here. Is it okay to invite her up?
If she wants to come up now, she may, or she can come up later. If she's coming up now, that's fine.
Because she was an intricate part of this process.
I have no doubt that's true. So when she is seated, I would ask her to give her name and address.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. Leslie Blateau, 410 Greenwich Avenue, New Haven.
Thank you. So the floor is yours.
So the term of this contract as well is a 3-year term. And so the parties agreed to a 3-year general wage increase as well. So year 1 drops the lowest step to add a new step, and the new step would add a step R to it. The step movement to those through the step, which is a total of 4.3%, 4.3% for year 1. And the cost for that year one would, well, I'll give you the cost at the end. So year 2, step movement to those moving through the step is a 2.2 general wage increase to all, which is a total of 4.69% for year 2. And for year 3, step movement moving through the step, a 2.25 general wage increase, which equates to 4.55% for year 3. The cost for the 4.3% increase for year 1 is $6,105,815. From year 2, the cost for the 4.69% is $6,951,208. And for year 3, the total cost is $7,055,940. And that is for a 4.55% increase. The total cost of this contract for the 3 years is $20 million. The total cost of the increases for the 3 years is $20,112,963. And so while that sounds like a lot, we have a large membership. There are almost 2,000 teachers in this bargaining unit. And I will defer to President Blato to talk about some of the highlights, but I will say that insurance was an intricate piece of the bargaining that was a significant importance to the membership as well as the board, how we had to collaborate with the City of New Haven's medical team to come up with what we came up with. And some of the highlights for the insurance, the 4 current insurance plans remain. There's no change in premium cost share for any of the plans. The post-deductible RX copays max at $1,000/$2,000 for the family. And there's 100% covered after deductible, which the previous contract was 90%. So this year is 100% this term. And there's also the preventive drug writer. They have access to that as well, with their opportunity for free medical prescriptions that be covered under the preventive drug writer. And then mammograms related ultrasounds are covered as well. And so that was one of the more important pieces that I think it took us a little bit longer to come to an agreement, but that was one of the major areas of concern because, of course, our teachers work really hard, right? We service our students in the public schools, and they deserve quality health care and competitive wages as well. Anything you want to share, President?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Thank you, Ms. Flegler. Appreciate those details on the financial end. I'll start with, I guess it's almost a year ago, in spring 2025, we surveyed our members to learn from them what our priorities are to prepare for negotiations. And about 80% of our members completed the survey, and it really yielded the priorities of our members were salary, health insurance, and some working conditions issues that I'll address in a moment. So we are glad that we were able to close the gap on competitiveness with other districts when it comes to teachers working in New Haven. I think we can all agree that teachers shouldn't take a pay cut relative to our peers in surrounding towns just because we choose to work in New Haven. And health insurance, some of you are aware of some of the struggles that we encountered. I think what we ultimately landed on, we are proud of. It addressed some of the major issues related to cost and related to where the high deductible plan sometimes doesn't meet our needs. And that 100% coverage after the deductible is huge. And that made the difference for us and for our members when it came to, I believe, to us ratifying. Some additional points for your consideration are we also maintain longevity pay for those who have worked 25 years and more in New Haven, which is significant. It's a small number, but a mighty number of people who truly have dedicated their careers to this city and to the youth of this city. We also, in the name of gender equity, moved the stipend for cheerleading coach out from clubs over to athletics because cheerleading coaches are doing athletic work. So that was the first thing we agreed to in negotiations, which was quite positive. We also, class size and special ed caseloads continue to be an issue. And while I'll be honest, we didn't get everything we wanted at the table, who does? We are happy to report that if this contract is ultimately approved by this body, we will get back to the table before the contract expires with management to talk about class size in March of 28. And we have agreed to a joint labor management committee on special education, which is much needed. And while we weren't able to get the caseload caps we wanted, I believe this committee, the parties are going to come together, positive intent to really address what I think we would all agree is an ongoing special ed crisis when it comes to staffing. That's not specific to New Haven, that's across the state. Also would like to celebrate some protected time for teachers before students arrive. That is crucial. So we know now we have 2 half days before students arrive during our contractual work time, dedicated, unencumbered, that's a precious word in our contract, unencumbered time to get our classrooms and our spaces ready for our children. In addition, we have some new protections for our itinerant members. Interestingly enough, the word itinerant is in our contract once prior to this new deal. We have more teachers who are labeled as itinerant, so they don't necessarily have a home school, so that we were able to implement some protections for them, making sure they don't have to do collateral. So imagine you're working at 2 schools, and now you also have to do hall duty and bus duty. That makes it really hard to focus on the needs of kids. Remember, we're coming at this, how can we make sure that kids are getting the best of us and of our employees? Also, some additional collaboration between labor and management when it comes to health and safety, when it comes to LGBT and academic policies, academic freedom policies, and also something that I know is important to this body for budget transparency. The Board of Ed agreed to post the line item budget on its website, which is exciting as we continue to make sure that we are being as transparent as possible in our advocacy at the state level. One more piece that I forgot to add around class size. We represent pre-K teachers. The word pre-K was never in our contract. It will be in the next contract because we have a class size cap of 20 now for pre-K, which is exciting. And that means a lot to our members to see themselves in our contract. So now pre-K and itinerants will look to the contract and see themselves. We continue to hope for continued collaboration with the board to address the working conditions that we know are going to keep coming up for us. Happy to answer questions, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any further information you'd like to convey to us?
I do just want to mention, want to thank Leslie for that, was perfect. So we did increase the hourly rate for teachers as well. It went up slightly from $32 to $35 an hour. So for any additional duties that they take on, they'll be paid the additional $35 per hour above their salary. That includes homebound and any before and after school. And summer school is great. All extra quicker hours that the time they put in will be compensated a little bit higher than they did in the prior contract.
Thank you very much. Any further information? Seeing none, we'll take questions from committee members. So the queue is open for committee members to ask questions. Alder Punzo.
Thank you for that presentation. How do we stack up against other systems as far as salary? You know, I have, just printed out a few things. It seems like on the far end, we're really doing well. When people reach max, we're actually at number 2. But how do we stack up, beginning teachers versus maybe the 5 or, from 5 to 15 or 14? That's.
I don't have my trusty packet in front of me to be able to give you a completely accurate answer.
Yeah.
I think we're making significant progress. I think the struggle is it's when people transfer in and take advantage of that great salary schedule that we've worked really hard over the last 2 contract cycles to negotiate. They come in with their years of experience and come in at that significant top step. That's part of the struggle, because people, this is my 19th year. I'm not at top step, but someone can come in with 15 years and make more than somebody with 19. That is the bigger struggle. That's harder to get our hands around. So I think we are making progress relative to other districts. I think we'll continue to use the moves that Ms. Flegler described of taking off the bottom step. So new teachers have that higher starting salary. Actually, I'll go back to the office, double check, our folder that has the comparisons, and get back to you with a more concrete answer.
Would you like to request that through the chair, Alder Punzo? Would you like to request that follow-up through the chair?
Yes.
So noted.
Great.
Thank you, Chair.
How do we, when we lose teachers or teachers move on, is it during a particular time or years versus steps? I mean, is there sort of an area where, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or is it just arbitrary?
You want to take that?
It does vary. It varies. It depends on some of the younger teachers they have an opportunity to go up. They start their careers all over the place. And sometimes you find that younger teachers follow the salary, right? And so, and then we know that we have a group of educators here in the district that are committed to our students and the New Haven community. And again, to President Plateau's point, that's why we struggle with that piece, because when we offer these competitive salaries, we do attract And we do attract candidates, but our goal is to not only attract, we want to retain them.
Absolutely.
So our goal is not only to attract because the salary is more competitive, but we want to also, we tap into our internal talent and try to ensure that we retain them as well, because it is somewhat disheartening sometimes when you hire teachers at higher salary. You had someone that, to President Blatto's point, that been here 19 years and someone comes in and makes more. That is not a good feeling, and we have a hard time retaining those teachers. So it does vary. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but it does vary. We're looking at all being innovative ways in how we can best attract a diverse array of teachers to our district so that and we can retain them with opportunities to keep them here. And so what we have done is look into our internal talent within our district, meaning paraeducators who are interested in becoming certified educators, because they're in the classroom with the teachers quite often, right? And they know the students as well as the teachers, and they support the teachers. And so that is the best pathway for us in order to grow the talent with the district and at a lower cost, right? It's not a full teacher salary when you have a paraeducator that's moving into promotional appointment to a teaching role. So to answer your question, it's just various ways, but it's just we look at a lot of different areas.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Punzo. Next on the queue is Alder Festa, followed by Alder Furman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of items in the contract. One of them is Section 6, the teaching load. I don't know if you touched on that, which is also new, where lead teacher shall be assigned one less course than. What is the maximum and what?
I can speak to that. Okay. So at in departmentalized, so typically high school and some 7th and 8th, teachers, for example, a math teacher, an English teacher, a world language teacher, they teach 5 courses, and that's protected by the contract. So we do have some lead teachers who are doing, help coordinate grade level meetings, content meetings, they are recognized for their leadership and their skill in the classroom. And oftentimes we had different stipends, incentives, or a range of approaches across high schools for how lead teachers were compensated. And then when there's a range, there's not always trust in how we approach this. So we try to standardize that and say, if you are a lead teacher, then you will teach 4 instead of 5. So then that additional prep that you're given back can be used for that work.
Perfect. Thank you for that explanation. I figured that was the case, but it's good to have it on record too. And also there's this proposal 39, and it has Sound School in parentheses. Is there?
Yeah. So it's Sound School. Yeah, Sound School works a different schedule than their counterparts in other New Haven public schools. So because there are different work rules related to there being a state tech ed program, they get an additional stipend for their work. That stipend hadn't gone up in many years. Don't quote me on the number, but it was time that stipend went up and we were able to negotiate a raise to the stipend for Sound School teachers.
Great. Thanks for those explanations. And then just one last question. I know you worked very hard, Ms. Blateau, as well as, I'm not going to deny, and you rallied out there. I'm going to ask the same question as I did before as to the support of this contract by the teachers union.
Yes, I have it handy, I believe, of the numbers. If you give me one quick moment. So yes, 1,190 of our members, 69% voted in the election for the contract, and 92.7% voted yes, 7.3% voted no. So it was overwhelming support from our members for this contract.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That.
Thank you.
And thank you for your presentation and answering my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Alder Furman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Congratulations on a contract that has such a high percentage of approval. 70% is typical.
It was higher. It was higher than 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think we had about 55% vote in the contract. So more engagement, which is, we're trying to increase it every round, at every opportunity.
That's great. we can just get our city votes up like that, we'll be doing good. Excuse Mr. Chair. Little side journey. I'm just looking at schools, and I'm glad that my colleague asked about the contract, because that's partly what we're here for, but we're here to talk about the money, right? And so, each teacher works 8 hours.
6.75.
You're taking out personnel covered, it says a normal scheduled working day of 8 hours.
That's for the administrators.
Oh, the administrators. Okay, so, the administrators don't get overtime?
No, there's not. The salary employees.
Okay, so that explains why in most cases, they have a principal or assistant principal that's doing the bus duty outside.
Correct, but the teachers participate in bus duty as well.
Maybe not after hours, because the buses come late.
Right.
And the school's already closed.
Right, correct, that's after hours of the administrators.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking that is because there are some schools that children are waiting on the bus until the school's open. And sometimes it's 40 minutes waiting outside because the school isn't running yet, or people aren't there yet. And so, okay, that's just a little something. And then the health insurance part, do all of the paraprofessionals work at least 20 hours? Or are there some that work less?
No, so paraeducators, they also work 6.75 hours per day as well. They're full-time paraeducators. We do have part-time paraeducators in the district, but primarily we have a large number of full-time paraeducators, like well over 300.
Okay, so what I should have asked is, who are the employees that work 20 hours per week?
So that's part-time.
Okay, and
It's
what was
20
that?
hours or less.
And who would that be in a school?
So that can vary.
Custodians or-
Can I just, because she financing
Okay.
and work for part-time.
Good afternoon. So part-time workers could be a teacher working as a tutor. You
Okay,
could have paras working before or after school programs if the school has that. Sometimes you have behavior staff that comes in for special ed that helps, that's part-time. I'm trying to think of another category. But those students, if you have a student worker, you can have their 19 and a half hours, or any part-time person.
and as long as they reach that 20 hours per week for a school year, they will be eligible for health care.
Yes, but primarily our part-timers are 19 and a half hours per week. So 19 and a half hours, you wouldn't be covered, but in the administrator's contract, I know that you saw that piece, they work 20 hours, they're eligible for medical insurance
Okay,
and sick days as well, they get paid sick leave off.
okay, I understand it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Furlow. Any further questions from colleagues about this agreement? Alder Rodriguez.
My question stems around the pay that you have agreed, to increase from 32 to 35. What about the substitute teachers? I see that you spoke about the fullness of certifying paraprofessionals. And where do the substitutes stand? And what has, in reference to this agreement? Thank you.
I'll just note for the record that actually the contract for the substitute teachers came before this body last year, and we heard it and approved it by the full Board of Alders. I will allow you to speak briefly on it. They're not covered in this agreement. They're covered in a separate agreement.
Yeah, separate contract, where we were able to raise wages for our substitute teachers, in that contract, which we believed was overdue, and we were glad that we were able to get that done, along with, working with the Board of Education on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
No,
you.
subs are an important part of us
Great
keeping our
work.
schools running.
thank you.
Thank you. Further questions from colleagues about this ratified and approved contract that needs final approval from the Board of Alders?
Mr. Chair.
Alder Festa, another question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's probably more, it may not be for this body, it could be actually for
Okay.
our budget director as to where the funds are going to come from. Is it under our contractual services line item? And is there enough money in there
Oh.
to cover the cost?
Well, we can talk about that when we get
budget.
to our monthly financial report. I'll allow it then. But also note that the term of this agreement is July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029. So we're definitely going to be talking about this
I'm sure.
in March and April
We'll be back.
during the budget cycle. So it won't have a fiscal impact, at least not a huge fiscal impact, until we get to that next fiscal year.
Thank you.
But thank you for raising that. We'll have to recommend that as well, for sure.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this item? I have one, maybe two. I just want to make sure I understand the 0% employee contribution after the fulfillment of the deductible. I must have misread the materials. I thought that was just in regards to prescription meds, but that's in regards to all services that the plan covers.
That is correct.
Okay.
For those with the high deductible plan,
Yes.
the percentage of the employee cost share will stay the same for the life of the contract.
Yeah.
So we are making
In terms of the payroll
contributions.
contribution,
Yes,
but in terms of the out-of-pocket.
out of pocket, once we hit the deductible, 100% coverage, and that was significant. I believe the firefighters have it, so I'm glad that the teachers can join.
For all services, not just preventive services. Like
That is correct.
Great.
That is correct,
Thank you.
yes.
That is significant. I'm just thinking real quick to see if that answers also my other question, which I believe it does.
Okay.
Further questions from colleagues? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on either of these two items? The agreement between the Board of Ed and the School Administrators Union, or the agreement between the Board of Ed and the Teachers Union? Any member of the public wishing to testify on either or both of these items? And for a second time, any discussion, any testimony from the public on either of these two items? Seeing none, we're going to move to item 3, which is a contract with Verizon. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record.
Michael Simeone, 639 Tamarack Road, Cheshire, Connecticut. And I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the City of New Haven. We have an exciting contract coming up that's going to save the city quite a bit of money. I'm very happy to present this. The timing of our negotiations, leveraging T-Mobile against Verizon, was significant advantages for us in doing that. We've been a Verizon customer for over 20 years. T-Mobile has been poaching municipalities from Verizon, and they didn't want to lose the city of New Haven. So over the 3-year period, the contract's going to save us $183,000. So it's significant. If we did go with T-Mobile, their contract would have saved us $500,000. So even though that is still a significant savings, you also had to factor in the cost of converting over your devices from T-Mobile, from Verizon to T-Mobile. These aren't only cell phones. These are also GPS devices that are in all the city vehicles. These are also PCs with cellular capabilities in the police cars. There's also wireless devices that are on our fire apparatus. There are also iPads in our health department services group. So there are a number of devices that are in this agreement, about 2,400 devices in total.
Thank you for that succinct presentation. Is there anything you would like to add before we take questions from community members?
Well, I can tell you that the cost of the cell phone under this contract, when an employee comes to us for a cell phone, there is no cost for the cell phone. prior contract, we had to purchase the cell phones. And the cost has gone down from $40 a month down to $25 a month for service. And that also includes data, cellular data with that, which we're able now to turn on the hotspots in all of our cell phones and not get charged for that. So if you're out working someplace and you don't have Wi-Fi service, you'd be able to turn on your hotspot and get cellular service without being charged for that.
Thank you for that information. We appreciate it. Anything else before we move to questions from committee members?
No.
Thank you. So the queue is open now to committee members who have questions. I believe that Alder Furlow has a question, and then we'll have Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. So let's, I just want to make sure I heard the numbers right. I didn't get a chance to write them down. So the cost of, you're saying that the cost of conversion would have exceeded the amount which would have made the savings, that would have superseded the savings.
I'm sorry if I said that inappropriately, but the cost of the T-Mobile contract would have saved us about $500,000 a year. So the delta there between the Verizon contract is $300,000. And the cost of converting from Verizon to T-Mobile, because we would have to swap out the phones and all the devices and all the city vehicles, the body cameras, we would have to swap out the cards for the body cameras. The cost of labor to do that would have been extensive, and we didn't have the resources, and I didn't want to spend that type of money in doing that just to move to a new carrier.
Okay. And is there any department in the city besides the Office of Legislative Services that is not using Verizon?
No, I don't believe so.
The whole city is using Verizon?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Furlow. And before we continue with the queue, I just want to recognize Alder Walker Myers, our president, who has joined us. Alder Festa is next on the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the explanation so far. Just what is the RFP process, if there is one, with negotiating these types of contracts? Because it is a multi-year contract, correct?
Correct.
And so what, do we put out an RFP, or do we just reach out to the main cell carriers?
We just reached out to the main cell carriers and provided them contractual numbers that we had and the number of devices we had, and then sent that out, and they came back with their proposals. And a lot of them didn't want to bid on the city's work, so it was just T-Mobile against Verizon on that.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Who were the main players?
Yeah, it was T-Mobile and Verizon.
And that's it?
That was it.
Okay.
But we did have a committee within the city, members from City Hall, members from the operations groups that use Verizon heavily, like the police department and what have you, to assist in going through the options within the contracts for both T-Mobile and Verizon.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not going with Verizon solely for the purpose that it would be challenging to convert to T-Mobile, even though T-Mobile was also giving savings.
Right.
So we weren't being preferential towards just Verizon. We were looking at the
No,
whole
we
picture.
both gave them a fair shake
Okay.
in reviewing what their the services that they provide, also the support that we would receive from both Verizon and T-Mobile. Verizon does have a extensive support network that for the city, but T-Mobile has not does not have that extensive network, and also that they were working on several major municipal conversions also. So that was a factor. Would they have the manpower to assist us in all of this?
And how about, upgrades? So if, how sometimes phones get outdated and they start losing their full potential, particularly, and I feel it's intentionally done. And battery life starts to decline, et cetera.
Planned obsolescence, Alder.
Thank
That
you.
stuff. Planned obsolescence.
Thank you.
Yeah, within the contract, the upgrades are free.
Okay, so if an employee comes to you and says, hey, my phone is acting up, I did the software update, but it's still not functioning properly, they can swap out that phone
Absolutely.
for an upgrade and without question,
Without question.
and without any additional fees?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Feinstein. Further questions from colleagues on this 3-year agreement? Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you. My question stems around, right now, we have Verizon.
Correct.
So we're looking, in other words, to benefit from renewing and having a new 3-year with a contract that's much better than than what we have, but keeping Verizon.
Correct.
Thank
To maintain a steady, to maintain the price throughout the 3 years, we have to get a 3-year contract for Verizon. Or else if we just got a 1-year contract, possibly next year, it could go up at renewal time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Rodriguez. I see Alder Wingate, who hasn't gone yet, and then we'll return to the folks who have. Alder Wingate.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Just a clarifying question for me. So you said that it was a $40?
Currently, right now, it's $39.99.
Right.
A monthly service.
It is going to be going down to,
$24.99.
I just wanted to make sure I heard that correct. Thank you. So there's some cost savings in what you just turned over
Right.
for the next 3 years. Thank you.
All set, Alder Wingate? Thank you very much. Further questions from colleagues? Anybody who hasn't gone yet? Seeing none, Alder Frill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just trying to get my head around the whole system. So OLS operates under a different contract outside of what the city has because of the whole city is using Verizon. I'm just wondering why OLS is not part of that deal or that savings.
I really couldn't tell you. I don't know why they're not part of the Verizon contract.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, it might be good to get that information and see what happens with that. Thank you.
So noted. Further questions from colleagues? Alder Walker-Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And if we could just give the microphone over.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you know about how long OLS hasn't been under the Verizon contract? Is it something that's fairly new?
I don't know.
Or you don't know? Okay.
I don't know.
Through you to Mr. Chair, that'd be important to know. Might be some backstory.
Yes, we will definitely follow up on the question of
Thanks.
what contract OLS has with what carrier and how long and why. And this committee may talk about that again at some point. Further questions from colleagues on this item? I think you've covered all the ground I would want to cover in terms of service. I guess the one question I had was, in your consideration of these two contenders for the city's business, did you do an analysis of network coverage and whether or not one carrier has a broader, stronger, better network in this region?
We did, and they all claim they have the best service.
Right. We've all seen those advertisements.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the region. So it's difficult to say exactly who has better service. Somebody may have better service in different parts of the city than the other carrier. We also took a look at future. as the city begins to grow and we consider to put more cameras throughout the city, a lot of those cameras cannot be connected to our network because our network is at about capacity if we continue to add more cameras. So a lot of those cameras are going cellular now. And so we took a look at that also. There are concepts that Verizon and T-Mobile both have called Future City, which tracks your vehicles with special GPS software. We have the first level of that in our city vehicles right now with Verizon, and under the new contract, we'll be able to get the new version of the software and track our vehicles more distinctly throughout the city and make better type of maintenance type of agreements on those vehicles. And some of them may also be able to do the phone home type of options of, okay, this vehicle needs an oil change and possibly even schedule it. So we took a look at those future options in their concepts of future cities and what future cities are going to look like.
Thank you for that additional information. Back to the question of network. I'm wondering if you know of any outside vetting organization, like say Consumer Reports, that would be able to give the city independent information about network coverage rather than trying to get it from the people who want your business.
I could take a look.
That would be good to know. And then the other question I think is, have you heard, or has the administration heard from its staff concerns about the current carrier and its network? Like, oh, I was driving over to this part of town and I got no connectivity, so I had to park and then go back. Can you call getting any feedback from other coordinators?
I haven't.
Okay.
But I don't know, a lot of times those types of discussions don't reach my level.
Right.
So I could ask the IT help desk to see if they've gotten those types of.
It's just worth having an eye on that going forward, because for me, obviously cost is a huge consideration that this committee cares about, right? But we also want these devices to function well.
Right.
And connectivity to a network is huge. I mean, that's the whole thing here, right? And so it's not just a cell phone where you're calling someone, it's all these different devices you're talking about, but their operability depends on being connected reliably to a network.
Yeah, another factor to that is not only the coverage and the cell tower coverage, because they all use the same cell towers.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the age of the device. And obviously the much newer devices have stronger cellular chips in them. Mm-hmm. So even upgrading to a newer device will increase a person's coverage in any areas that they didn't have coverage before.
Right. They have essentially a better receiver on
right.
And transmitter on the device. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering those questions. Any further questions from colleagues on this item? Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You actually triggered some questions.
Oh dear.
I know, lucky you. How about outages? Verizon experienced a big outage not that long ago where there was no cell service for a few hours. That and security. We have, as you mentioned, many devices that are attacked, 2,400 devices, GPS for police, we have fire. What is the security that Verizon is willing to provide for hackers, or is that a partnership between the city and Verizon?
Well, most of our devices are on, especially the public safety devices, are on private networks, virtual private networks, VPNs. So those devices make a direct connection to whatever device they're connecting to. So if they're connecting to a server within the police headquarters, that's a direct connection. It may use the Verizon network, but it makes a closed secure network connection to that. So those devices are completely secure. Now, for if a staff person has a cell phone and has a text message, can that be intercepted? That can be intercepted if somebody has the wherewithal and devices to intercept the text message or phone call.
But even email, so we have, we have our Outlook on our cell phones. We know that those are pretty highly protected. We
Right.
also had to do an online certification. We all had to do something to make sure we understood. But is there still, I mean, there's always the possibility, but Verizon and the city, I'm hoping, work together to try and prevent as much interference as possible.
Well,
Because we have a lot of info that's on our cell phones.
right. There's a lot of info that you receive through your cell phone, but a lot of that info doesn't reside on your cell phone, because if you're going for email, that connects out through a secure network connection to Microsoft 365 to pick up your email.
Okay.
So that's all on Microsoft's servers. It doesn't reside on your cell phone. You don't draw the information down on your cell phone.
Okay.
The other security option we have on our cell phones and other security devices is the program called Mass 360. You've probably seen it or gotten a message on there if you download a program that's not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
With that Mass 360 program, we're allowed, if you lost your cell phone and you contacted the IT help desk, we're able to wipe the data next time that cell phone is booted up or connected up to a network.
Okay.
That's done automatically.
Right. Thanks for that clarification. And you mentioned the future cities. Do you know satellite is going to be a part of that future cities versus cell tower, dependability?
There is both Verizon and T-Mobile do have satellite capabilities. The newer iPhones, if you're an iPhone user, the newer iPhones that we would be getting under this contract does have the capability for satellite connections. So if Wi-Fi is down, if cellular is down, you're able to go satellite for your calls.
Okay. And I'm going to assume that in the future, hopefully that might be the direction, this future cities. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thank you for that explanation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions about this proposed 3-year contract with Verizon that contains apparently significant cost savings for the city?
Mr. Chair, I have a question I just like to ask you before I make a
Alder
question.
Rodriguez.
My question stemmed around, have we considered an opinion from our city engineer regarding T-Mobile and Verizon? And is this necessary for this matter?
I don't know that our city engineer has any particular expertise in this area that is greater than our chief technology officer. We could certainly ask his opinion. I'm happy to do that, but
I was just pondering the question because we talked about issues related to environment in terms of the matters that my colleague here shared. And so that's why I was asking in terms of the engineering aspect, the environment aspect.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Rodriguez. Further questions from colleagues? Seeing none, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask if there's a member of the public who wishes to testify on this item. The proposed 3-year contract with Verizon. Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on this item? And for a third time, anyone from the public wishing to testify, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is a position swap proposed by the New Haven Free Public Library. Thank you for being here. When you get settled, we'll ask for your names and addresses for the record. And you have papers for us, so let's do that first. Get the paper handed out.
We love supporting material at the library.
Colorful supporting material.
it's not my vocation. I'm kidding.
Did we get enough? Yeah.
We still have that. We did. One of the few remaining libraries, and it's very popular.
I know, this,
I caught that as I was sitting in yesterday.
yes, indeed, page numbers are always helpful. So names and addresses for the record, please.
Maria Bernay, 1050 State Street, New Haven. Karina Gonzalez, 5 Overbrook Road, North Haven, Connecticut.
We're all ears.
Good evening, everyone. The request you have before you is a reclassification request for 2 supervising librarian positions. If you look at the reclassification request page, there is a side-by-side look at both positions. So the first position we're discussing is position 23001, which is the library technology supervisor. This position is currently funded through special funds. If you recall, over the last, since its creation in 2020, myself as well as John Jessen, the former city librarian, have requested this position be added into the general funds position because of the role that it plays within the library, or the way it supports the library. We have not been able to get that position in. It remains on special funds, and there are some challenges with it being in special funds that I'll go into in a moment. This position is currently vacant. And just looking at the cost difference, the overall cost difference, there is no change. In moving this to general funds and switching out the position that is currently on general funds into special funds, the benefit cost and the salary cost remains the same. So it is an equal switch. So looking at position 2010, which is the supervising librarian, this is a position that oversees a team, the I² Makerspace. So that's where all Makerspace technology is, where we have the laser cutter, the vinyl cutter, the memory lab equipment. It oversees that space. Again, this position is also vacant. The salary is the same, and with the switch of the 2 positions, there is no difference in the budgetary, benefits cost as well. So I'm just going to move to the next page, which is the justification. So the reason that we're asking for this position to be switched, as I mentioned, is that there's several reasons for that. The major piece is because we want to ensure that the library is sustainable. This is part of, it supports infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and our network. We currently have 1 classified staff member that oversees our entire network. That employee is sitting to my right. And the challenge with that is that the library oversees, through its 5 locations, a huge inventory of devices, as well as the network. And so in order to sustain long-term support for all of those devices, for staff to be able to do their job, for the public to have access, I believe it's important that we have this role into general funds. Because we have experienced a very high turnover, because every year, we do approach budget season, and there's always a question of, well, will the funding continue? Are we able to get into general funds? Because of that uncertainty, we tend to lose people. Of the 60 months that we have had this position since 2020, it has been vacant for 26 of those, where we've been, trying to recruit someone. So that does pose a challenge, because in addition to that, we've had 5 different individuals in the time that we have been able to staff it. So when you're talking about recruiting, hiring, onboarding, going through that whole process, the actual time of them being able to do the work compared to, again, how long it's been vacant, it's not effective for the library to continue its support to serve the public and to better serve the public. It's really important for this to be into our general funds. We've also had some very qualified candidates that have left because of this uncertainty. So again, there's just that high turnover, and I don't think that works well in being able to support the wide range of things that we do for the public. I'm not going to go through the itemized list just for the sake of time, unless there are any specific questions, but I did just want to point out some of the things that this position does oversee, and that's 179 public computers across 5 locations. It's in addition to 168 staff computers, as well as 12 integrated AV systems for public meeting room space across all 5 of our locations, as well as the administration and maintenance of our servers, copiers, public printers, 3D printers for public use, our self-checkout stations. You can see the full list, and that's just the hardware. That doesn't go into the software that supports our data analytics and all of that. So this is a absolute necessity in the library. Our role is, information, to support the community's information needs. Not being able to do that sustainably is impacting the way that we do our work. It also does create a bottleneck for projects and things like that, that have been a priority for the library, but have just experienced delays, again, because of this high turnover. And so for the other position, both positions are incredibly important. The role that the I² supervisor plays is that it does support our entrepreneurial makerspace, as well as nonprofit research and business startups here in New Haven as well. So there's two very important roles that both of these supervisors play in the library network. But I do believe in not having this one position into general funds in a sustainable place does impact our overall operations. So that is why we're here this evening to request that that position be moved in, the other position be moved to special funds. I believe that the funding is sustainable, I believe, for the next year and a half. Any questions for me on these positions?
Thank you for that presentation. Anything else you'd like to tell us before we move to questions from committee members?
No, I believe that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So now the queue is open for committee members to ask questions about this request to move one position out of general into special and another position and vice versa. I see Alder Furlow on the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. I'm just wondering why now? The budget season's coming up, so why not make the change during the budget season?
Thank you. The reason we're doing it now is because both positions are vacant currently. The library cannot sustain these being vacant until July. We don't want to upend two individuals in those roles by moving one and then putting one into a position that we've experienced versus moving the other one in. So that's why, because it happened to be that both positions were vacant as of one is the supervising librarian was August, and the IT supervisor was September. So because of the timing of both of those, and again, to not upend someone who was in that role and change their status, we are taking the opportunity to do this now.
Thank you. So this has been an ongoing issue.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering what the rationale has been for it not being changed previously, since it's been 4 or 5 years of going through this.
We've always, as I said, we've always been trying to get it into the general funds budget, sort of an and position. So no switch, just getting it into the budget, and we've been unsuccessful in doing that.
Okay, I guess just to kind of figure out why, was the special funds position, is that new, or has that always been, over the past 5 years, has the special funds position been there also?
The special funds position was created in 2020.
Okay, and this special funds position, you said, has about 1.5 years of funding left?
I believe so, yes.
And the plan is to continue to seek funding for that under special funds?
Yes, with it under special funds, because it has a more of a emerging technologies job description, there is greater funding possibilities, because this work also does align with digital navigation. As you know, the library is very vested in digital navigation, and there are currently, just because of the focus across the state of Connecticut, there is a greater possibility that we will be able to fund it on special funds or find additional grant opportunities. More so than infrastructure. There are fewer grant opportunities for IT infrastructure positions.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Furlow. Alder Festa's on the queue, and then it's open after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How long has the I² position been vacant?
Since August.
Okay, so that plays a part too as to why you want to switch it, because now they're both vacant, with this position being vacant just as of August. And does this special fund have a description associated with it that could affect this switch from happening, or doesn't matter?
No, we did check with both, the labor department, with the description as well as budget. There is, at this time, no, reason why they would impede that.
Okay, so we wouldn't lose this funding because of this swap?
No.
And also, will the making the I-squared position special funds, will you run into the same challenges that you ran into with filling the other position?
I don't anticipate that because, again, with it being more of an emerging technology role, I think that, like I said, with it kind of aligning more with the digital navigation scope, I do think there is more funding that will be possible for us. So I don't think we're going to have such a hard time being able to support the continuance of funding.
Through grants, moving forward?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues on this item? Further questions from colleagues on this item? Seeing none, we thank you for your presentation. Thank you for being here. Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on this item? The proposal to swap positions in the New Haven Free Public Library budget from general to special funds and vice versa.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public wishing to testify? And for a third time, is there anyone from the public wishing to testify? Please indicate so by coming forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next two items, the monthly financial reports for November and December 2025. Good evening. You have some paper for us. Let's take care of that right off the way.
Okay. And Shannon McHugh, 395 Warnoke Road, Monterey, Connecticut. And I am the director of budget policy management and grants. Excuse me, it's been a
You're having a hard time remembering what the acronym stands for?
It's been a long day.
We have to check the business card.
Wait,
Is it just one sheet?
oh, it's a,
Then we can pass it up and just say it could be more than one. Okay. I think everybody has the information. President, you have? Okay.
all right. Well, as you can see on the front page of what I just handed out, did you get it?
I did. I will look at it,
Yes.
but at my own time. Please continue.
Sure. We are looking at some spending pressure, which is incorporated in this document. So the latest estimate I had from the Board of Education was that they are anticipating at this moment, and this is, they believe, the worst case scenario, an $8.8 million deficit. They do believe that it will come in a little bit better than that because they haven't accounted for some tuition revenue that they normally get at the end of the year and for transportation revenue that they get at the end of the year. The particulars of the school budget we're working through, and we're working through the ask for the current fiscal year. But I was told the absolute worst case scenario would be 8.8, but that's without taking into account the $3 million we set aside in the assigned fund balance, which would bring it down to 5.8. So it's a matter of how you capture it here. So I captured it as, just double check. I think I put the whole 8.5. Sorry for misspeaking, 8.5 under education. So I put it in there because I didn't account for that $3 million, covering a portion of that. So that brings it down to 5.5, and then there still will be that revenue. And I do recall last year at the end, we were looking at a higher deficit, and when those revenues came in, we were able to close that gap. And I know that the Board of Education is doing a lot to try to, do whatever they can on their side to try to mitigate that deficit. So some other areas where we're seeing a little bit of pressure is, most departments are doing well within their budget. We did put a spending freeze on. We put a spending freeze on nothing on personnel, like that is, we have to pay employees, that happens automatically. But we did put a hold on anything that was considered other than personnel services. At the time that I did this report, the amount that was being held, taking out things like insurance and debt service and all those things you really can't hold. It was about $11 million. Now, we've been spending down on that because you can't hold all that back, especially for public safety. But what this does is gives us a second layer of scrutiny where every request to utilize those funds has to come through the budget office. When it's public safety, you know, we're really not gonna get in the way of public safety. But they still ask, and they're still scrutinizing their spending. So by the time the spending gets to us, it's really necessary, and we don't wanna hold things up. So we would generally, anything public safety gets moved right along. But, you know, we're looking at things carefully. We're looking at what's paid on the P card. And, you know, this Christmas, we had, you know, there were plans for parties and things like that, but those were all canceled because we were, you know, there were still celebrations, but the city did not fund, you know, extras. So we really did cut back on all that spending. Not that they did the prior year, but we really cut back. So we're doing everything we can to try to mitigate that risk. When you look through where the variances are, I'll go through them one by one. The finance department is expected to be about $1.9 million over, and that is IT. It is not the controller's office or accounts payable. It's really IT, and that's the demand for all the software services that we're seeing. And it's being offset with some salary savings across the department. And we're looking at ways, you know, to do things smarter and be more efficient and really scrutinize that spending as well. And you'll hear more about that in the next budget cycle when we talk about, you know, what the ask is for IT and the reason for the ask. But there is some pressure on that budget line. The debt service, there were some financing costs, so we think it'll be a little bit over budget. Development subsidies, actual costs. This was a real number. It wasn't a projection. It just exceeded slightly for developmental subsidies. And then the self-insurance fund is over about $2.6 million. And that's all of our insurance for cybersecurity, for property, for flooding, and all of those items. And there's been some pressure on those lines as well. All of this on the city side would probably, you know, I believe, not probably, we would have made up for it with salary savings and other budget line items, like we typically do, through vacancies and all of those things. We do believe we, you know, by the end of the year, we'll cover a lot of that. The education budget, like I said, I put the full 8.5 in because we're gonna take the 3 million out, you know, with the fund balance. So we're gonna do everything we can, working with the Board of Education to bring that number down. And then in terms of the revenues, we're seeing, you know, investment incomes coming down a little bit. We had budgeted in line with prior years, but we see, one, we're spending down ARPA funds, so there's less money in the bank, and two, interest rates have shifted. So we think we're gonna do a little better than this number. I checked recently and it was doing a little bit better, but we do think there'll be a little bit of shortfall in investment income. And then here on the state sources, this is how we accounted for it. So we did receive extra money in the state grants, which was to be assigned to the general fund balance. So I did show the overage here. So net for net, that Board of Education 8.5 is being sort of offset with the state revenue. It's just a presentation. I thought about putting it, you know, front, but I just kept it. The revenue came in and there's an expenditure that will cover. Does that make sense? It was a matter of, I was making a judgment call where I should show it. So I showed it that way. But all in, right now, we're looking at an $11.4 million deficit in the general fund, and we're going to do everything in our power to. And that does not count all that money we're kind of holding on to. So if we have 11.4 and we're doing that hold of a lot of those, you're going to be a non-personnel expenditure budget. We're thinking we're going to offset a good amount of that. And I'd also like to point out, we have the $1.4 million expenditure reserve that we haven't utilized, so we have that for cushion as well. So there are some areas, to mitigate this pressure. I didn't account for it. I wanted to show if we didn't do all these things, if we didn't take these things into account, this is where we could end up. This is worst case scenario. I think we're going to do a lot better, but I just wanted to show you where the pressure was. The medical fund, and medical fund's a little bit hard to track because we can show all the money going out, and then there's revenue that gets booked. And sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. But right now it was showing about $1 million deficit. Workers' comp is doing well. We believe we'll be over budget in workers' comp, and litigation fund is at the moment showing surplus. We know there's a lot going on in that litigation this year. The corporate counsel came and asked for additional funds, but we'll keep a close eye on that and see where we end up. So that's really the overview. I did include some charts in here that just kind of show some trends. They're a little hard to read, they're kind of small as I look at them now. They're better when they're on screen and in color. And I'm happy to share bigger versions of that if you want to see. But overtime is tracking as we would expect. And the last page of what I gave you showed you what we had held on to discretionary spending so that we could try to make up for deficits. So the next monthly report will be coming out soon, and we'll see how much we spent down in that hole, that budget hole. And we'll see how revenues are tracking. A lot of the revenues they're doing pretty well. The only thing we're watching closely is investment income. There's a little bit of a lag in parking revenue, but that we were told was because a vendor was holding, there was something being worked out when the vendor was holding on to a little bit of money. So we'll refresh that number in the next monthly report and get a more accurate view. But I know there's a lot of attention on making sure we collect as much parking revenue as possible. Buildings are doing great though. They're actually coming in where they said they would. The building department. That is my overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director McHugh. We appreciate your report. I'm definitely at the stage of my life where large print editions of documents is appreciated.
Yes.
So before I open the floor for questions, I just want to observe, especially for the folks who are new to this committee, that this is something that we do every month, is we review the monthly financial reports, and our budget director kindly brings us a small sampling of key information from those reports, but she doesn't hand us over the full report in this meeting. But that full report is available to all of us, including all of our colleagues, in the packet that goes to us, the Board of Alders meeting packet. When the monthly financial report is communicated to us, the packet for that meeting will include the 120-page or 140-page monthly financial report. We used to get hard copies every single month, which took up a lot of space. We don't get hard copies every month. You can request one if you want one, or you can simply print one off from the PDF that we are given. But committee members should know that the monthly financial report is available to us every single month in the Board of Alders meeting packet for whichever meeting that item comes to us. So colleagues can definitely look at that. If you want hard copies, then I will work with Don Hayden, our fiscal analyst, to make sure that people get it. Don, did you want to add something?
Yeah, it's included with the packet I sent you before the meeting.
And it's also included in the packet that Hayden sends to us before the meeting.
It'd be a month or so before that you got the one Board of Alders.
That's right. So that full report is available to us, and we get it at least two different ways. But for the sake of time and for the sake of drilling down onto the most important items to be discussed, our Director of Management and Budget usually gives us some supplemental information or some excerpts from that report. And that's what we usually talk about.
And I might suggest, if you want to go online too, it is online, and that way you can see the charts, see them in color, and you can make them larger, just throwing that out there.
Okay, so there you have it. So all the information is at our fingertips. If you have difficulty locating any of it, just let me know, and we will make sure you get it. So The other thing I'll just observe from members who are new to this committee is that every single year, there's a deficit that looks really big, and then over the course of the year, gets reined in. Right, so don't let this meeting cause you to have a panic attack. You'll get used to it. But deficits are what we usually look at in the course of the year, and they usually come out better in the end. That's not to say you shouldn't ask questions, because you should, but I just want to give that quick reassurance to new members of the committee who may not be quite as jaded and used to those reports as the rest of us are. So having said those two things, the queue's open. Questions from committee members. Alder Wingate's first on the queue.
Thank you, Director. And I am one of the newbies. So my question was, and you answered it very well, the deficit from the Board of Ed, sticks out to me. Yes. And it seems like it's always a deficit from the Board of Ed. Just from your experience, are there other options? What are the options that can support them not having such a large deficit all the time?
Well, there's there is pressure on, well, now we have a new teacher contract, so we're gonna have to, absorb that. So that's gonna require additional funding. The Board of Education, they put out their own monthly report every month. And so I did have some conversation with their CFO to make sure that I was putting in the right number. And he did tell me that this is worst case because those revenues haven't been, absorbed. And I will also tell you even on the general fund side, like there are mitigants that we could start to apply to try to bring this down, including that budget hold, including the expenditure reserve. We have to talk about that expenditure reserve if we were to use that, but there is $1.4 million there. There's salary savings that we project out, so I could quantify that in the next monthly report, try to give you some better idea of how much in salary savings, although we are seeing a pickup in hiring. Like there's less vacancies than in prior years, which is actually a good thing because then we get to do our work and more efficient, less overtime and things like that. So there's been a lot of effort to do that hiring so that we can lower the overtime. Overtime is always something we keep track of, but it's nothing's jumping out at me, at least as far as this report was done. We see it track. Sometimes most likely the police will probably come and ask for some kind of a transfer for whatever salary savings they have to move over to that budget line. So there are this number is sort of all in worst case, and I have not applied mitigants at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Wingate. Alder Rodriguez, followed by Alder Festa and Alder Frilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you review page 6 with us of the handouts? Could you explain that graphic a little bit better?
Yeah.
And why, and if there's any information you can give regarding youth and recreation. Thank you.
So what this was a hold placed on the other than personnel services. So we did it across the board, where whatever wasn't spent, we put on hold. And we only did this to scrutinize the spending, not to stop it. Like we're overriding it and putting funds back in, but it gives us the ability to say, is this spending really necessary? And that's the whole purpose, not to get in the way of operations, because I know parks, they sent a bunch of requests at once. And, I think they were worried that it was going to slow down their operation, but we're like, no, we will look at them immediately and we will just have another set of eyes on them. It's just for that additional level of scrutiny, just to make sure we're spending what we need to, our operations are running, but we're not doing extra things, like things like we're really looking at travel, a lot of departments like to go to conferences, we're scrutinizing that, make sure it fits within their budget, all of those things.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Rodriguez. Alder Festa and Alder Frilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the update. You mentioned, I think you said you do not have the numbers for the spending freeze?
Oh, it's here. It's about, at the time I did this report, it's about 11 million.
Oh, it is that number.
It's probably
Okay.
less now because we do have to, we had a snowstorm, public
Yeah.
works, go do your work, all those things.
Okay, so that is the number of the savings.
It's the hold, we're probably spending to that, but it's just another level of scrutiny.
Okay, and of that 11 million though, what
do we think will be savings at the end of the year? After, we didn't do, we're in the middle of budget season, so I haven't done the next monthly report. We'll have to see what the storm, we probably spent into a lot of this in terms of the storm, snow removal. But the idea was that this, at least we could watch this really closely, and they'd have to get from, the departments would have to just ask before they spent it. That was all. And it was important not to, tie the operation or hold people back.
Right, and that is an important point to make, because we don't want business to stop.
Right.
And residents, pay for that. And I understand, the exceptional spending that we do need to watch out for. And is there a certain amount, like if I'm a department head, I come to you, I need approval of this item.
Mm-hmm.
If it's below a certain amount, do you need to see that, or is it a range that you want to?
Actually, they've been asking for pretty much all of it.
Okay.
And it's a quick email, like we respond to them right away. We're not trying to hold everybody.
Okay, I was just curious to see if there was a range of what.
But it's usually as the finance person in the department is looking at it themselves, saying, "Yeah, I have this," and sometimes, especially police will say, "Oh, we already moved that off. That we're only sending the things that we really need," and we'll respond immediately. Like we're not holding anyone back.
And who has a P card?
I don't know the whole list, but not. Most of the department heads do. We're tracking it pretty closely. People have to show what they spent their money on. They have to have the receipts. They have to report that. And if people don't comply, their card will be shut off. And it's happened if, we don't get the receipts and we don't get the information as to where to book the charge, then their card will be shut off.
I mean, that's normal business practice.
Yes.
Anyway, to do that, even in corporations.
Yes.
I remember having to do a monthly expense report with a business credit card. So that, I'm glad to hear that that's happening.
Yeah, and I question things. I'm like, what is this? Was this okay?
I'm going to interject just for a moment. Is there a list of everyone who has a P card?
There is, I just don't.
Okay, we would like to have that.
Sure.
Yes.
Continue, Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have another question, hang on. Oh, the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably still coming
Mm-hmm.
in because it looks like, what was that page?
I just did the tax today. And those are big.
Is it the Q2 tax collections on page 5?
Yeah.
Are those the numbers for tax collection?
Yes, as of, this was December. The number, so I just looked at the numbers today and I was checking, like, is this right? Because there's a bit of a jump. So it's picking up.
Because they were due February 1st.
Yeah, because I knew that I saw the lines and I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, okay, that looks like how it's supposed to go.
Okay, so this is not, this will be updated.
Yes, yep.
With the most current numbers. And I know this is nothing to, well, I shouldn't say nothing to do, but has the grand list come out? I know that's with the assessor's office.
It has.
Mr. Chair, will we be hearing from this?
Absolutely, Alder Festa.
Okay.
Every year during the budget season, we go over the grand list for the tax year that we'll be looking at in the budget.
Okay, I didn't realize, I thought it was this meeting, but it's.
No, it'll be with the first budget overview somewhere in there.
Okay, because that was my other question. I think that does it for me, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Next will be Alder Furlow, followed by Alder Walker-Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I am interested in the discretionary budget, the discretionary hold.
Mm-hmm.
And this hold will be until the end of our fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to know how effective it is, or how effective this is going to be in cost savings. So I think what I'm going to request through you, Mr. Chair, is that anything that has been denied, I would like to see those numbers so that we can figure out towards the end how much money of this 11 million we're actually saving with this discretionary hold.
Absolutely. So would you like to have that before the end of the fiscal year, or are you asking for it at the end of the fiscal year, looking back at what was denied at the end?
I think if we can get it monthly, a part of this, part of the report, that would be the easiest way to track it.
Is that feasible from your end?
Sure. I will be honest, because of the level of scrutiny by the departments, we're not denying a lot. If public safety comes in, you have to pay. Parks, this cleanup, they've asked, yes, you have to do this work. It's things like travel. It's things like, conferences and all those things that are really nice to do, but maybe not necessarily operational.
So I think what we would need then is a list of expenditures that departments decided not to make
Okay, I'll see.
because of the tone set by your department, and then a set of expenditures submitted to review through this process, and what made it through and what didn't.
Okay.
That way we can see both what's hitting this process and what's not even hitting it, because they decided, well, I guess we're not gonna get that anyway. Does that make sense, Alder?
It does, Mr. Chair, because the end goal is if we're trying to save 11 million, and we're letting everything go through anyway, possibly.
Well, we're slowing things down a lot of ways too with hiring and things like that. Time value of money, just like people ask for positions, and if they're not public safety or they're not replacing someone who left, and we've been functioning without them for most of the year, we're kind of slowing that whole process down so we get that time value of the money.
Yeah, my concern is that we constantly do savings through positions. And it's not a real cost savings because we just services going down in some areas. For example, this past snowstorm, holy cow, just go outside. There's snow everywhere. I couldn't even get in. And so, and that's been a saving grace for us, right? We're not slow in hiring, and then we have this savings, but that's not really a true savings because we're budgeting for it. And so the true savings, I think, would be in things that we're cutting. As you said, no, you can't go to a conference that's $6,000 per person and you have a department with 20 people. And so those are the things that I'm interested in seeing how we can cut, if that makes sense. I'm not really so concerned about the positions because we'll deal with that in the budget.
Right.
I want to see those real things that we're actually cutting.
Okay.
And I think that would be most helpful, in addition to what Mr. Chair asked, because he's a chair. And the other thing I wanted to ask, just the final question, if I may, with the Board of Ed, we just cannot come to the end of our fiscal year and try to figure out what to do. So we got to follow this closely. So I see that 7.8 million, it looks like, is transportation.
Right.
How in the world are we going to cover that? Where's that money coming from?
Well, that's one of the ones that they expect revenue to come in associated to that. And at the end of the year last year, they were also projecting quite a large deficit, and then that revenue came in and it really did kind of bring that number down. I could talk to them about whether we should start building that into a projection, like if we can get an estimate of how much we think we will get in that transportation revenue. But I know like last year, it made a big impact when they did get that revenue in. So like I said, I do believe, and then I did talk this over, that this is pretty worst case, and they're likely to do better because of that. And tuition also, there's tuition was also loaded as a negative.
Yeah, but that wasn't quite, that was the largest one outside of salaries, which is going to increase anyway. Through you, Mr. Chair, that might be, because I can't breathe at that number. And just like to see where this money is going to come from. Where's it coming? Like where is $8 million going to come from? That's just strictly transportation. Is it state, grants? Where's,
The state money comes in.
It's state money coming.
Yes. I can get you more detail on that.
through you again, Mr. Chair, that would be helpful.
So noted.
We covered the IT, and I think those are the big numbers that I saw.
Yeah.
So I think I'm okay for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Furlow. Next on the list will be Alder Walker Myers, and then the queue will be open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just gonna ask, when are we gonna start talking to the Board of Ed about doing some of the things that we've been doing? Like you said, we scrutinize, the spending and stuff like that, because when we look, I know money will be coming in, because we see that happening with, special education and all of that stuff. But we still see a deficit most of the time at the end. And I think, just like you said, it's not to stop operations or anything, but sometimes when people know, like, you're not just gonna get the yes, sometimes they don't get to you and ask you the question because they know they could do without it.
Right.
And I think that would be helpful, because in the past, we've seen how it worked for the city. So we should be talking to the Board of Ed about doing some of those things too. And projections is always good, because you can look at the average of the last 5 years, how much money came in, and you'll have a number to start. It doesn't have to be like a true number, but
Yes.
we need a starting point. And I think that will be helpful.
I can follow up on that, do a little trend analysis on the transportation revenue and how it flows in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Walker Myers. Further questions from colleagues? I see Alder Festo. I'm just looking to see if someone who hasn't yet asked questions would like to ask. Seeing none, Alder Festo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, one of the questions was what President Walker Myers just asked, is of the New Haven Public School, to make sure, are we following the same procedures for them as we're doing now with this, discretionary budget holds. And then the other thing is with transportation, and it may have been brought up in one of our budget meetings, but the fuel that is used for the school buses. It was our understanding that we pay the fuel, but First Student uses the buses for other municipalities as well, or whoever uses First Student on our fuel cost. So have we taken a deep dive into that to see where we are with, fuel costs? Because if First Student is using the fuel that we're paying for to take, let's say, a Hamden school for a field trip, that's our fuel that we're paying for.
I don't know the information off the top of my head, but I can look into that.
I'll be glad to follow up on that, Alder Festa. It's actually on the list of things to follow up on from the joint meeting that we had last December. So yes, that is on my list to follow up.
I knew it was somewhere. Okay.
You remember correctly.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues?
I have one question.
Alder
Mr.
Rodriguez.
Chair, thank you. Are all the departments reaching out to you in terms of the discretion?
They
Including,
can't spend it.
including youth and recreation? Because I see the number here is, based on the bar.
Yeah. I think they're rounding up though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. Because I just spoke with them today, and they're really, ramping up so they can be ready for, summer employment and all of those things.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Rodriguez. Further questions from colleagues? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you. Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on these items, the monthly financial reports for November and December 2025? Any member of the public wishing to testify, please come forward. And for a third time, anyone from the public wishing to testify on these items? Alder Punza.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to close the public portion of this meeting.
Second.
The motion's been made to close the public portion and seconded. Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. The public portion of this meeting is closed. Alder Punza.
Mr. Chair, I move item number 1 favorably.
Second.
Second.
Item 1 has been moved and seconded. Discussion of the item. Alder Punzo.
Mr. Chair, I move item number 2 favorably.
No, we're still on item 1.
Okay.
And this is the amendment.
Oh, remember? I move to amend this item by substitution.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to amend this motion by substitution. Discussion. Okay, so let's explain. I'm going to pass out to colleagues a sheet of paper with substitute amendments for the 2 contract items, including the one that's currently before us. And the reason why is because the wording of the original resolution was inadequate and defective in a variety of ways, which I'm not going to go into. But let's look at what's in front of us now. And in my handwriting, you'll see near the bottom, substitute amendment AFSA Local 18. That's the one we're looking at now, right?
Yep.
So you can see it's an order of the New Haven Board of Alders to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the New Haven Board of Education and the School Administrators Association of New Haven Incorporated, AFSA Local 18, from July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029. And the rest I won't read aloud because you can read it for yourselves. One of the things I had to do is that the order that was given to us didn't give the appropriate or exact name of the union that represents these staff. And you can actually find that out. It's on the front page of a tentative agreement. So if you're going to have a piece of legislation authorizing a contract, you should name the union correctly and not call it something else. And there were some other details that needed to be dealt with. You'll see that the whereas clauses do mention that the contract was ratified by the members of the association and approved by the Board of Education at its regular meeting on January 12th. So the 2 actions that happened before we see it have happened. The union approved it, the Board of Ed approved it, and this order would just do our approval. Any discussion of this substitute amendment? Any questions? Any questions or discussion of the substitute amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the substitute amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The item is amended by substitution. Discussion of the item as amended. Any discussion of the motion as amended? Alder Morrison.
I just want to make the statement that I'm glad that the school administrators and the city was able to come to an agreement. Anytime when we have these contracts that come our way, one of the things I do, I look out into the gallery and see, do I see a bunch of people here knocking down our doors, indicating that they don't like it? And so to hear, the report from the HR that, even though they didn't say the numbers about the first one, but everyone, for the most part, is in agreement and is going to provide better supports for our administrators, just like our teachers, to be able to do the job that they do in order to make sure our children are educated and have all the things that they need. I'm happy about that, and so I am in support of this item.
Thank you, Alder Morrison. Further discussion, Alder Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in favor of giving this a favorable recommendation to the board. I'm happy to hear that there was, they said 70% of the teachers.
That would be the next item.
Oh, that's the next one. Well, I'm giving this a favorable recommendation to the board. I've been on this second one all evening. I have a question about that too. Good job. Congratulations to the board president for getting this through. And the raises seem to be in sync with other districts. And so we're glad that we're giving our teachers what they so rightly deserve. Glad to see the night education amount go up per hour also.
I believe you're talking about item 2.
That's 2 again?
This is the school administrators.
Mr. Chair, what I'm gonna do, I have all these voices in my head. I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna say, I give this a favorable recommendation
Thank
to
you.
the full board, and I encourage colleagues to do the same.
Thank you, Alder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion on this ratified and approved contract between the Board of Education and the school administrators. Any further discussion of this item? Alder Punzo.
I agree with my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the one thing that I, being in that position for so many years, it's not only the contract is well worth it. I mean, but, they need to work on culture and climate also, which I think is very, very important for a school to function. But I am in favor of this item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Punzo. Further discussion of this item? Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving this forward with a favorable recommendation as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The item will move forward favorably. Alder Punzo.
Mr. Chair, I move item number 2 favorably.
Second.
Item 2 has been moved favorably. Discussion, Alder Punzo.
Mr. Chair, I move item number, I move to amend by substitution. I know there was substitution.
Second.
Item 2, there's been a motion to amend by substitution, item 2. So that's the other side of the sheet of paper that was handed out to you. Substitute amendment, local 933, right? In my handwriting, but you'll see the resolution looks very similar to the one we just voted on. And again, I made sure that the actual proper name of the unit was accurately listed in the title and in the body of the resolution. You'll see that it mentions that there was a ratification vote on January 9th that successfully ratified the contract from a union perspective. The Board of Education approved it at its regular meeting on January 12th. And so this just approves it. Any discussion of the substitute amendment? Any discussion of it? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, there's a question from Alder Festa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just checking to make sure that the amendment has the numbers representing savings.
No, those are not in these, that's not in this. When you say savings, I think you're thinking about the Verizon contract.
No, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm looking at the wrong one.
These contracts are not going to produce savings. They're going to produce additional costs, which we may believe are warranted.
Yep, no, sorry, I skipped a page
Okay,
and went to the wrong page,
All
so
right.
I take that back.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any further discussion of the substitute amendment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The item has been amended. Thus, discussion of the item as amended, Alder Wingate.
Thank you, Chair. I am in total support of this item. I think it's great that they ratified this contract, settled this contract. It seemed like to me that they built some best practices in it by starting early on some next steps that they will be working with the city on. So I'm in full favor of this contract. I was going to defer to Majority Leader because he's been wanting to talk about this for a long time. But I just wanted to ask him.
Thank you, Alder Wingate. Every colleague will have the opportunity to speak on this item in turn. Next on the queue is Alder Morrison, and then the queue is open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to state that I am in total support of this agreement. I am thankful that the teachers in the city were able to come to some type of agreement. As they say, true negotiation is when everybody leaves the table a little happy and a little sad. And in this negotiation, I see that our teachers will get more money, which they definitely deserve, and better plans, and just feeling more appreciated. And so I am, again, very thankful that they have come to this conclusion, and I hope the rest of my colleagues provide support for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Morrison. Next is Alder Fairwell, followed by Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the union contract for the teachers.
Correct.
I am also in support of giving this a favorable recommendation to the board, and without repeating it, what I said previously, I take those words and I move it here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So noted, Alder Fairwell. Alder Festa, followed by Alder Walker-Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too am favorable of this item and highly encourage my colleagues to support it. This has been, a tough fight on behalf of our teachers who we all know are loved and appreciated for the most part, right? And we entrust our children to them every day for many hours, and for they to have a fair pay is important, as well as, proper health care. There was one comment made that I want to, it was made that our teachers deserve good health care. Everyone deserves good health care. I don't think we should distinguish one department from another, or even person to person. But anyway, that was a comment that was made, and I just want to make sure, and I think the board would agree, that everyone deserves fair and good health care. I'm glad they covered longevity. I think it's important to recognize teachers that have been dedicated for 25 plus years. There are still some concerns that need to be addressed, like classroom size and of course, special education. But for the most part, it is, I think, a favorable contract with, 1,190 people that partake in the union. 69% voted with a 92.7% approval. That speaks volumes, I believe, in regard to this contract. So I encourage my colleagues to support it, and I am definitely in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Next is Alder Walker-Myers, followed by Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in full support of this contract, and I hope my colleagues support it as well. I think it's really important that during this negotiation that the city and the teachers actually be able to forge like a path forward. I think I'm hopeful, because during the back and forth, everybody kept their eye on the prize. Our teachers deserve more pay, and I think everyone believe that. We also know the challenges we have, but we have been voting on and producing contracts that bring people up to par, the teachers, the police, and other people. And I think we have to continue doing that, because we see the value in it after. And I hope this contract actually fill some of those teacher vacancies and it actually yield what it should. And I think it will come from a line of teachers I might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Walker-Myers. Next in the queue is Alder Rodriguez, followed by Alder Ponce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Additionally to everything my colleagues have shared that is significant for this contract, according to Leslie Blacktoll, the president of the union, she did share that there was a survey that was conducted for about over a year and a half, where the teachers did establish they were concerned about salary, health, and also some working conditions. The great thing about this agreement that has come about is that they are going to continue to work and do like a joint committee to talk about the serious issues that they're concerned about, not only in special education, but also two important things that came about in this agreement is that there's going to be an increase in pay of $32 to $35 for teachers, and also a protection time for teachers that is embedded in this contract. Most important, again, is the fact that over 1,100 teachers went ahead and supported and voted yes to this contract, over 92% of the 70% that voted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alder Rodriguez, I think most reasonable people would conclude from your remarks that you're in support of this item, but it's important to say that explicitly.
Thank you. I am in full support of this item.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Alder Punzo, and then the Cuso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also in support of this item. You know, I think one of the big pieces, like Madam President mentioned, was the insurance piece. At least now, when they get their raise, they can see an actual raise instead of the insurance piece taking up a lot of their raise. So I think that was one of the major negotiating points. Also, you know, I had some salary schedules. So I printed out some salary schedules, and we are moving up. We're becoming more competitive at the beginning, in the middle, but at the end, you know, which takes about 14 years to get to, we're number 2. You know, with the ending salary, but we need to hold on to them to get there, you know. But anyway, I'm in favor of this, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Punzo. Further discussion from colleagues on this item? I'll just note for my part that I'm in favor of this item, that we should just note the incremental cost increase for the next fiscal year of these raises, because we'll have to give at least that amount of money, you know, above and beyond what the Board of Ed got this year. And I personally would view it with great skepticism, any proposal not to do that, because we should approve this contract, but we also have to provide the money to pay for it. So colleagues will, of course, need to remember that. And then the other thing I would say is we heard recently from the acting chief of police that recruitment efforts have gotten much traction in that department. And then he attributed a fair amount of that to the new agreement between the police union and the city. That some of the economic pushing and pulling that was taking people away or preventing people from applying have been reduced, and so they've had better recruitment. So let's hope that kind of effect we see here in this bargaining unit as we have with those other important staff at the city. So any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving this item favorably, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. It will move forward as amended favorably. Alder Punzo.
Mr. Chair, I move item 3 favorably.
Second.
Item 3 has been moved and seconded. It is the Verizon contract discussion. Alderman Gates.
I think it's a wise decision. I'm in favor of saving us money. Look like there's a true cost savings from going from 40 a month to 25. It seems like Verizon is a comparable and capable service that we can use, that we have been using, right? We don't have to pay for the phones, right? But like we can get the upgrades that we need within this system. So I'm in total favor, and I hope my colleagues support it as well.
Thank you, Alder Wingate. Next on the queue is Alder Morrison, and then the queue is open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in support of this item. I think that Verizon is a very good service, reliable service. I'm glad that there was some true negotiation that happened in looking at the contract and Verizon seeing the value of the city being one of their customers and willing to go, I guess, the extra mile in maintaining us. And so I'm glad to see that this happened, even though there was a tafu the other week with their service. Usually you don't get that when it comes to Verizon. And so I'm in support of this this new contract, and I hope the rest of my colleagues will be in support too. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Morrison. Next is Alder Festa, and then the queue's open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support this item. There's a savings of $883,932 associated with this contract. I also like the idea of the future city. So it's looking into the future of what potentials there are I also didn't realize how many devices are incorporated in which departments, et cetera. So it's important that we have a good, consistent organization that is going to be able to maintain everything that functions under these cell services. And of course, the security is important as well. But I also want to point out that we do need to look into the Office of Legislative Services to see why that department is not a part of this contract as well. And if there are
list of things to do, Alderfest.
yes, and and what savings there are associated. But I encourage my colleagues to support this item favorably. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderfest. Further discussion of this item? Any further discussion of this item? I'm going to speak in favor of that, and I'm going to ask colleagues to look at the resolution. The title currently reads, Order of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the renewal of a new 3-year agreement with Verizon Wireless for use of cellular services by the City of New Haven and Board of Education. This is not a contract renewal, it's a new contract. The words, the renewal of, should be removed. I move to amend this item to remove those 3 words.
Second.
The motion to amend has been moved and seconded. Discussion of the motion. This may seem like a relatively small point, but we see contracts that have 1-year renewals, and then we see new contracts. It's important for the resolution to be clear which this is, because those are different mechanisms, and this is a new contract. So we shouldn't have verbiage in our resolution that is not accurate. So I urge colleagues to vote in support of the amendment to remove those 3 words from the title. Any further discussion of that amendment? Seeing none, please, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. The amendment is made. Those words will be removed. Back to the item as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the item as amended, moving forward favorably, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. It will move forward favorably. Alder Punzo.
I move item number 4 favorably, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Item number 4 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion of the item? Any discussion of the item? Alder Furlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in support of this. And I think I remember probably what happened. It was probably us that took that position out, possibly. Didn't approve it to go with the general fund, an additional position. And so it kind of makes sense to have this swap now, because preferably we would want this to happen during budget season. But that's taking the rare chance that perhaps it wouldn't make it after our amendments. It seems like something that they need. And we always want to support our libraries. Our libraries are a very, very important part of our city structure. And so, again, I'm in support of giving this a favorable recommendation to the board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Furlow. Next in the queue is Alder Morrison, followed by Alder Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in support of this item. As a member of the library board, and looking at the intricate pieces of the library and the direction in which we're going, which, everything is IT. And so to have a position such as this and the uncertainty of special funds is not a good use of management style. You're always going to need your IT person. You're always going to need any and everything that supports that. And so by changing this position, swapping it out to general funds, it gives us an insurance that we're always going to have someone in this position. We're always going to have someone support around IT, because as things become more digitized and, through school and everything, we have to have this in place, because everyone doesn't have those services in their home. And so we have to make sure that we have things in place for our constituents of all ages. So I do support this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Morrison. Next to the queue is Alder Festa, followed by Alder Walker Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in favor of this item after our librarian explained the responsibilities of the library technology supervisor, what they will overlook. It makes sense to remove it from a special fund position to a general fund position. And she explained also that the current I-squared innovation, which is general funds, makes more sense for it to go to special funds because more grants seem to be available for that type of position, and the challenges that the librarian was facing in filling the library technology supervisor because of it being special funds, that seems to be hurting us. So both positions are vacant. The I-squared innovation and market space hub position was vacant in August, so it makes sense to address these positions now before the budget, giving them the opportunity to, get resumes in and hopefully hire someone for the library tech supervisor, because it seems like they're in urgent need of that position versus the I-squared innovation position. So I encourage my colleagues to support this item. Everything our librarian mentioned, I think, is important for us to understand on how the dynamics works. And as Alder Morrison mentioned, everything is becoming technology. Everything is in that position is going to be more relevant than ever moving forward with our library functions. So I support it. And that, we're no longer microfiche. I know I dated myself, but that was our research. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder. Further discussion from colleagues on this item? I'll just say a couple things. One is I certainly remember microform and microfiche, having looked at a lot of that many years ago in the basements of Sterling Memorial Library. So I call my colleagues' attention to the resolution, which also has a couple of errors. Your chair was very grammatically inclined this weekend. Sometimes you might quibble with some of these things, but I feel like the verb is the most important word in the sentence. What are you doing? The verb really matters. And you got to use the right verbs, especially if you're referring to a budget matter. So if you look at the third whereas clause, it says, whereas these budget transfers will support the long-term sustainability, etc. Well, this is not a transfer of funds. This is a reclassification, right? So we should not use the word transfer, because a verb in a piece of legislation about a budget, a transfer means something very particular. This is not a transfer. There's no transfer of funds here. This is a reclassification of a position. So the word transfers should be replaced with reclassifications, which is the verb that is used elsewhere in the resolution, right? So that needs to be fixed. Now, while I was at it, I made a couple other changes. I'm proposing a couple other changes. In the first whereas clause, there's a lot of words. Whereas Article 8, Section 3 of the City Charter and Section 2-383, parentheses 1, of the Code of General Ordinances requires. No, that should be required, because the subject of the sentence is plural, so the verb has to be plural, and the plural form of the word to require is require, not requires. So take the S off. And the other thing, this is small, as you continue, the approval of the Board of Alders for the transfer of funds within the general fund operating budget, comma, as adopted, another comma, and Section 2-386, the General Code of Ordinances requires that time it's singular. There's a comma between them because they're both independent clauses. And when you have two independent clauses joined by the word and, you have to put the comma before the word and. So we're adding a comma. So the changes we're making is to take the S off of that first required, adding a comma after the word as adopted, and then changing the word 3 lines down from budget transfers to budget reclassifications. I move an amendment to make those changes.
Second.
Any discussion of this earth-shakingly important amendment from the chair? Alder Furlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do. I support this. I think that the wording of our legislation is extremely important. And it should be as near perfect as we can get it. And so I appreciate you going through these verbs. I've been running my stuff through AI to make sure that I'm having it right, and sometimes that's not even correct. And so thank you for doing this, because it's legislation. This is part of our job, and we need to get it right. So I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. All for further discussion of the amendment. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The amendment will be made. Back to the item as amended. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The item will move forward favorably as amended to the full board. Alder Funds?
Mr. Chair, items 5 and 6, I move item 5 and 6 to read and file.
Second.
Items 5 and 6 have been moved forward as read and file. Any discussion of these items? I'll just note for the record that there's several follow-up items that came up in the discussion of this item, which I will work with our staff and my co-chair to make sure we follow up on. Any further discussion of this item? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. 5 and 6 will move forward to the full board as read and file, recommended as read and file. Alder Pudsey.
Mr. Chair, I move item 7, leave to withdraw.
Second.
Item 7 has been moved forward, recommended leave to withdraw. And seconded. Any discussion of this? Just for colleagues who may not have heard me say at the outset, this item has been superseded by events. It's moot. The Corporation Council has found another way to do this and doesn't need to do this request. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. It will move forward, recommended to the full board. Leave to withdraw. And before a motion to amend is appropriate, let me just thank everybody for coming through this first meeting of the new term. Next month is already March. So guess what that means?
Budget season.
It means that the budget season is nearly upon us. The next time this body meets will be the second Monday of March. March 9th. It will be a monthly meeting and the budget overview from our Director of Management and Budget. That's typically when we also have the acting assessor come and talk about the grand list that will be in place for the next budget year. So be ready that we'll begin the journey next month, the budget journey. I had hoped to have a finalized budget schedule to give to you tonight, but I had an issue come up in my life, a funeral I have to go to late in April. So I need to work with staff to make an adjustment here or there to our calendar, but I anticipate by the end of the week that we'll have a finalized schedule for the budget cycle for those months. I want to also just note that on your desks, you will see a big book. It is the final and approved budget for the current fiscal year. I asked for paper copies, which we all 30 colleagues have it, and we'll use that in our training on the 28th. Having said that, Alder Punzo.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Any discussion of the motion to adjourn? Properly seconded. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.